Welcome to the Commander's Journey, a journey for new Commander players ready to uncover their hidden magic potential.
Welcome back. I'm Joel.
And I'm Alex.
And today we got a really awesome short clip video for you. Sorry about banging the table right there. But Alex and I have been talking about just doing these shorter videos. And this topic, this segment, we're going to be calling it Hidden Gems. So these are just some hidden gems, some awesome cards throughout the history of Magic that specifically for Commander aren't always utilized, but are really awesome and fun in certain decks. And yeah.
Yeah, something that either is under the radar, underplayed, or, really not very known at all. You might know about it, but I think for most people out there might stumble upon this card for the first time and then be like, hey, that's a really cool card. And hopefully we can find a few of those for you.
Yeah, and the three we're going to talk about today, they're all really budget cards, happen to be. And I think when we're looking up on EDH Rec, they're utilizing very few decks, like just a few percent. I don't know how much the second one was, but the others are not very many decks people are running these cards. But we think they deserve a little more space in your decks in the 99. So without further ado, let's talk about our first hidden gem. First one you got here for us, Alex, is Withering Boon. This is 1 and a black for a instant. And as an additional cost to cast this spell, you pay 3 life, and then you counter target creature spell.
Exactly. And I know you had to look up that errata, Joel. It's an older card.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those ones that I discovered it about 2 years ago, and I've been throwing it all my decks that generally want a counter spell that don't have blue in it. Of course, have black, but it really gets the job done in a lot of dangerous things, and no one's expecting, we put it in our Aura deck tech that we did recently.
That's true.
No one's expecting the Aura player to have a counter spell up their sleeve,
No.
They'll come in with something huge. You're like, yeah, no, thank you. I'm a counter that. And you're like, they're looking at you like you're not in blue and they weren't even paying attention, right? You catch them sideways.
It's beautiful. I'm going to counter you in Orzhov. Or even like mono black decks would be great. Like a Crick deck wouldn't even feel this because it already is used to paying life. It's probably a life gain style deck. You're paying 3 life to counter it. Heck, pay 5 life and just pay 1 mana, and you got a 1 mana counter spell in black.
And definitely better in the life gain, but this really goes into any deck again that has black, that doesn't have blue, that wants a counter spell. This is probably one of the best non-blue counter spells I've ever run across. It's a little specific, but honestly, we all know a tough creature when it's about to hit the board, and you just stop it in a color that no one expects it from.
Yeah, especially if in your play group people like to play those big green and red stompy decks, and there's big threats out there. Like write your Gishath deck, have this in my mono black.
Yep.
Sorry, Gishath, you can't come out this time.
Get out of here. And 3 life is a small price to pay to not get punched in the face once,
Exactly. And inevitably in Commander, these big creatures aren't just big 7/7s. They also got all this other stuff tacked on, so you're stopping a lot of stuff that the opponent wants to do. But I think this was like only in 1% of decks when I was looking it up on EDH Rec. It's really underplayed.
And it's not terribly expensive either. It is I don't remember if it's a common or an uncommon. Don't have the card right in front of me. But it's definitely higher for what it is, but I think it should be a lot higher than the price is showing right now, just because, again, it's the only thing that really does it this way, and it's one of the best out of blue counter spells I've ever run across, so highly recommend it.
Yeah, and especially in a mono black deck, I would say, because there's a lot of kill creatures and there's very few exile effects you can even find, and we just got a destroy enchantment effect in mono black, but having this also gives you like that flexibility. So really good. Okay, so that is one of our hidden gems. So if you got a mono black deck, or you got a is that the Mardu? Is it the white red black deck?
Yeah, Mardu, Orzhov,
or anything like that, right? Like
anything without blue.
Anything without blue. Consider putting a Withering Boon in there, and the artwork is hideous, but it's a great spell. This next card is really cool, and as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is really good for that. I didn't look up the percentage of how much is played, but this is very in budget. This is a land. It is called Ghost Town, and it's a land. You tap it, you can add 1 colorless mana to your mana pool, or for 0, you just return Ghost Town to your owner's hand. Use this ability only during another player's turn.
Yeah, so where I like Ghost Town specifically is not going to be in every deck like Withering Boon that doesn't have blue in it. Ghost Town is specifically good in landfall decks. There are a couple other decks where it could be useful that care about maybe the number of cards in hand or whatnot. Those are more niche, but I definitely think those go in there as well. The main one I'm looking at, though, as a generic one is landfall. The fact you can, if you don't have a landfall trigger coming up on your next turn, for some reason you don't think you're going to draw into it, or maybe you're running out of lands in your deck, because landfall decks will do that sometimes. Having a Ghost Town in there allows you just to throw it back in your hand to make sure you at least get a landfall trigger next turn guaranteed.
Yeah, and I think definitely the fact that we just had a bunch of landfall with Zendikar Rising come out, and there's a bunch of people building landfall decks with that new Omnath, right? This is it almost seems like an auto include, because you're not, how you always want to play multiple lands on a turn, you don't always have access to all those lands. So having that Ghost Town is really nice. You get I'm trying to look it up to see how many decks it's played in, but
I can almost guarantee you, just based on the amount of landfall decks I've played against, it's not a terribly low amount. I've seen definitely decks have it, but I don't think it nearly gets played enough.
According
in
to
those decks
EDH
as it
Rec,
should.
it's in 1,700 decks out of 402,000. So it's below 1%. It's like says 0%, but it's below 1%.
Yes, you got to remember, EDH Rec looks at the total amount, and this is good just for all listeners. It looks at the total amount of decks that could play it, use it. So because it's a colorless land, every deck can use it, and it only should go in landfall deck. And if landfall decks end up meeting that amount, I'd be curious if on there it says the amount of landfall decks in it. I expect that to be more like 5% to 8%.
Yeah, no, it doesn't say that. It just says of decks. But yeah, about 1,700 decks run it out of 402,000 decks, whatever, like you said, whatever that name is. But again, this is not necessarily highly utilized, but like if you have this and you have an Azusa, right? You can play 2 more lands. You can play 3 lands. You don't always have 3 lands in your hand to play. You can always bounce this back to do that. It's really cool.
Yeah, again, a fantastic of the landfall decks. Play it there. A fantastic include.
All right, yeah. So if you need if you built new Omnath deck, you built a landfall deck, put Ghost Town in there. You will be happy you did. Now for our third and last hidden gem of this show, we're going to talk about a really awesome red one that I think my brother put it in a deck. He started playing it against us, and we were like, oh, hot damn, where the hell did this card come from? And that card is War's Toll. It's 3 in a red. It's an enchantment. And do you need to check that, Alex?
No, that was the message on my phone telling me that Craig joined our chat.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wait. Craig has been recording this whole time. That's our backup bot.
I think my phone just caught up to that fact.
Nice. Oh,
you decided to notify me. Do you want to take it again?
Oh, we're still there. Okay, War's Toll. It's 3 in a red for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent taps a land for mana, tap all lands that player controls.
You don't need an appointment for that.
You don't. Did I say appointment?
Yeah, you did. It was great. You fixed it. I just made it helpful.
Okay, let me attempt this again. Whenever an opponent taps a land for mana, tap all lands that player controls. If a creature an opponent controls attacks, all creatures that opponent controls attack if able. So tell us about this one here.
So this is a fantastic card, and you're totally right. Somehow I missed it. I even played when the card was first released. Didn't see it then, really, but it makes sense. It's more of a Commander card, and Commander didn't exist when it first came out. And then I saw it again when Battle Bond came out. I somehow completely dismissed it, even though I was playing at that point Commander. And then all of a sudden, we're playing against your brother, Joel. He's in our Commander group. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, my God, how did I not know this card exists? And since then, I have seen it a few times. It actually does get played probably the most out of these 3. But still, it still seems much better than how often it gets played. Holy cow. Fantastic thing. If you ever need a enchantment that's going to slow down your opponents or attack them at a weird angle, this card will do it. It discourages attacking. It discourages defensive play or forces them only to do defensive play. You can really put it in either a hyper aggressive deck or a deck where is hyper defensive. Both really, the card helps out.
Yeah, and he had some weird combo going on. I think there was another card that either when you tapped a land or untapped a land, it did a certain amount of damage.
Yeah, I believe Mana Barbs was it, and that's another. And his was a burn deck that was playing it, which this goes fantastically in. But really, anything that's wants to be aggressive or wants to be defensive, this really does a good job.
Yeah, any of those burn decks, right? It's Obosh deck or Torbern decks that people like to play right now. Yeah, but especially with that Mana Barbs, it was doing a lot of damage because every time... Is it untap or tap? I can't remember. But anytime...
I believe it's whenever you tap, you lose life.
Yeah.
I'm not 100%
so whenever you tap a land, you had to tap all your lands, which means you had to lose all this life just to play something. You couldn't just pick and choose. So, but War's Toll, yeah. And like you said, also, this keeping... if somebody wants to attack with a creature, they got to attack with all their creatures. And then you don't want to do that necessarily all the time in a 4-player game because... somebody else got something up. You want to leave blockers,
And it's the same thing, too, with mana, right? If you want to play something on your turn, then you can't play during anyone else's turn. Instants are totally taken out, or you got to commit entirely to instants. You can't play anything else on your turn, and then you have to hold back your mana for a potential counterplay that may or may not occur.
Yeah, so you can't hold that mana back for that counter spell. Yeah, this is a good card. And again, I'm back on EDH Rec. I don't know how these percentages work, but it says 2% out of 195,000 decks.
Yes, and that's a lot more relevant too, because unlike Ghost Town, where we could only look at like every deck they had on EDH Rec at the moment, because it was every deck that could potentially play Ghost Town, War's Toll is a lot more relevant to every deck that can play War's Toll, and I think 2% sounds too little. We're sounding like the EDH Rec podcast right now, but it does get too played too low amount, and EDH Rec is a fantastic resource to find that out on. And it's I think it should be much higher percentage wise. It's a fantastic enchantment. It's only $2 right now. And it's one of those things, if you are having a need to either mess with an opponent at a weird angle, or any deck that really could use them going all in on blocking you or all in on attacking you where that's beneficial, this is a fantastic way to get it done.
Yeah, this is great. And so many red decks, right? Whether red's paired with green or blue or black, like red likes to be very aggressive. So you want to swing out, so you're making other people swing out so they can't leave up blockers. You're making them really think before they start a play. Like, this really disrupts a game, which is a very red thing to do.
Absolutely.
Red and blue. So if you play Izzet, you really like disruption. It's
exactly
the moral of the story. Well, there you go. War's Toll. It's a great red enchantment. I think, like Alex and I kind of alluded to, this can go in many, many red decks. It's only in 2% of decks. I think it can go in a lot more. Great card. So those are our hidden gems for today. Withering Boon in black. You got your counter spell. Ghost Town, colorless land. If you are using landfall, great to bounce it back to your hand and use it. And War's Toll, the red enchantment that makes your opponents think before they cast spells. And thank you guys so much for listening. Please give us a like, give us a subscribe. Talk to us in the comments below. What do you think of this? We're going to do more of these Hidden Gems shows in the future. And let us know what you think.
Yeah, if you're interested in buying any of the cards, we are a small channel, and please use our affiliate link to TCG Player to do so. Helps us out, and maybe you'll catch a couple of these hidden gems before the rest of the world figures them out, because boy, howdy, do I think they're too cheap right now for what these are.
Well, before we see you next time, there'll probably be a bunch more spoilers out, with the way spoilers have been going this year.
Yep.
Well, and we'll see you on the flip side. So that'll do it for today.
See ya.